welcome to Down Home Horror, where we keep the hall lights on for you. I'm Alex.
And I'm Amber.
And today, we are talking about a movie! Wouldn't you know it?
Yay! Exciting.
Here's our, fine print, right? As we continue to support the strike, our fine print is the studio A24 is compliant with strike regulations. And their movies are still greenlit currently, and they're going to continue to be greenlit. Therefore, we feel comfortable talking about A24 movies. That being the case, a big one came out this summer, right? If you haven't heard or you haven't watched, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, you should definitely check out Talk to Me, because that's what we're talking about today. It's going to be great. And it's just for your own awareness, it is going to be a spoiler type podcast today. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, maybe don't hang out with us today. Or go see it and come back. That's preferred. Go see it. Just pause this. Go to your car. Get in there. Vroom on over. Watch the movie. Vroom on back, and then hit play. It'll be like a dessert, like a cup of coffee after dinner, right? I think that's a good way of explaining how we are, I guess. I want us to be classy, Amber.
Pinkies out.
Always. So, I just saw this Monday, which means nothing to you, internet land, because time means nothing. But that means 2 days ago, thereabouts, time of recording to this. I saw this about 2 days ago, so it's still pretty fresh in the mind. What do you think of it, Amber?
Well, first, I just want to bring this up because
okay, yes.
So it's been a while since we've been able to go to a movie theater, see a movie, and talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So I was so excited. I was like, fuck yeah, get my fucking popcorn. I ate most of the popcorn before the end of the movie because I was anxious, and that's what I do. And then the last 10 minutes of the movie, theater experience, by the way, was great up until the last 5-10 minutes of the movie. And this random ass group of kids, there was 4 or 5 of them, anywhere between the ages of 9 and 12. They come running into the movie theater with food and, whatever, their snacks.
Oh.
And they walk up to the row behind us, which we were the second from the top. And they say, "Excuse me," to the people that were sitting behind us. So they move out of move their feet and stuff. Cause reclining theater seats. And they sit next to them and they're like, "What movie is this?" And the guy's like, "Talk to me?" ? What the fuck? You're here, what are you doing? And he's like, "Oh, cool. I have no idea what this is." And he's like, "Hey, my name's Gary." We'll say, I don't actually remember what his name is, but my name's Gary, but my friends call me whatever the fuck he said. And I was just like, what is happening right now? And they spend the entire last 10 minutes of the movie talking to each other, rustling around with all of their stuff, and and pulling their phones out, the flashlights are on because they lose something. And I don't know, I was just like, really? You couldn't have done this at the beginning and then left, or in the middle, or the climax,
the last 10 minutes. Rude.
I was
awful,
so pissed. I went from being this fucking movie to what the fuck is happening? But
a mood shift. Got it.
Literally, yeah. So now I want to go back and see it again, just so I don't have to deal with that, and also because not for any other reason than that, right? But
wasn't like it was going to become a new classic, iconic horror film,
right?
In the genre or anything,
right?
Yeah.
Fucking Gary, dude.
Fucking Gary.
Gary and his fucking goblin friends. I don't know.
I feel like whenever we now have a bad theater experience, we're just gonna say fucking Gary. Doesn't matter who it is. It's now Gary. All bad theater goers are named Gary.
New merch. Fucking Gary.
Fucking Gary. Don't tempt me. It'll happen. I'll make it. It'll be there. Give it a month.
That's so funny. But the actual point here is not Gary and his friends. The point is Talk to Me. And all I have to say, first and foremost, technically second, but whatever, is, oh my God, the fucking dread. The dread, the
The
hopelessness,
dread.
the misery
Ooh.
that is
Ooh, the
Talk to
misery.
Me.
Uh,
I don't know, man. This movie, to me, it screams horror. And it's been a long time since I felt like I've seen a movie that's screamed horror.
so I'll admit, I was maybe about 20 minutes into it, maybe 30 minutes, and I went, this is what I wanted from Smile. Honestly. This there's a lot of similarities, right? This was a I bet if I had saw Smile in theaters, I would have had a similar experience. And I really did enjoy Talk to Me. I think it was well thought out. I think it was well crafted. I think they knew how to craft a horror story while making it feel real. And I think that really does cement in what makes it so scary, not just some monster, right? It feels like something
Right.
that could happen to any teenage group of friends in a basement getting stoned, right? Like it just feels so real.
Yep. And it's funny that you say that because one
Mhm,
of my thoughts, this was a later on thought,
mhm.
but, and we all know what my thoughts on Smile are. And if you don't, the video's up. Go watch it.
Go
Trust.
watch it. Click. I'm sure there's a link somewhere.
But that being said, watching this made me feel a little bit more critical about Smile than I did originally.
Interesting.
Yes.
Vindication. Yes. No. What were some of your thoughts?
I feel like I don't know what it is about this. I feel like this captures like that existential like loneliness that you feel when you feel the grief of losing
Mhm.
someone that close to you, because this character is just portrayed so well as a person that's just alone, and she almost kind of makes herself that way sometimes, but other times she really is like adamant about not being that way. But
Mhm.
ultimately when it comes down to it, she ends up making herself that way. And I think that that's a combination of both the writing and Sophie Wilde's performance, who's
Mhm.
fucking phenomenal, by the way.
Amazing.
She's just able to convey all of those emotions really, really effectively. And I mean, Rose in Smile was great too. Don't get me wrong. I still love Smile. I
Mhm.
just feel like Talk to Me had a little bit more care behind the emotion and story that it was trying to portray.
So my thoughts during the movie, seeing the actress who played Mia, she has these gorgeous big eyes, right? These like Disney princess eyes. I called it Pixar acting. She just knew how to like look fondly at things and how to look terrified and how clearly her eyes are a huge asset in her profile, right? And
Hmm.
she knows how to use them to like make the scene that much more impactful. So I think you're right on the money there.
I love her.
Did amazing. I think everyone in the movie did such a wonderful job with the acting. There wasn't a single act job there that I didn't like. Uh, Everyone played their part perfectly, perfectly,
Hmm.
beautifully. I would say the only character I didn't really care for was Daniel, but I just I feel like he was written how most girlfriends are written in movies, right? He just was kind of bland. He served a purpose, but like didn't really have a whole lot substance to him. And I was like, I could have enjoyed a little bit more uh, substance, I guess, from Daniel, which was the boyfriend, not to Mia, but to her best friend Jade. Um, if you don't mind, though, I want to go back to the does she make herself lonely thing, right? So, movie, Talk to Me. Probably should have put this at the beginning. If you are unaware of Talk to Me is the story of a young woman, presumably high school. I think is the energy, maybe early college, something like that. I don't know, but that she starts at her mother's remembrance day, who has passed away 2 years ago, convinces her friend, lifelong friend, to go to a house party where there's this porcelain hand with a bunch of creepy stuff written on it. And apparently, if you hold it and you say, talk to me, you'll see a dead person in front of you. And then you say, I let you in. And then they possess you. But you're not supposed to do it for longer than 90 seconds because then bad stuff happens. So naturally, it's a horror movie. It's on, gets held longer than 90 seconds a few different times and just kind of stacks and compounds. And it's not a good time for anybody. right? And you find out that these spirits are also manipulative and can lie and can take on forms so that way they can convince you to like hold on longer, right? It's not a good time all around.
Yeah.
So we have Talk to Me, this title. And I thought it was so clever how they were able to do Talk to Me. And in the first 5 minutes, you understand why it's called that. Mia is talking to her best friend Jade, who's on her phone, not looking at her. It's her mom's Remembrance Day. And she can't even get some simple comfort because her friend's too busy talking to her boyfriend. Convinces her to sneak out, go to this party. And then everyone is kind of like, I don't know, weird kid. And are also on their phones and don't really want to interact. Now, here's my argument about how she sometimes does it to herself. Every time her dad tries to talk to her, calls, she ignores it. So Talk to Me isn't just about Mia wanting to be talked to. It's this overarching need to be heard from the spirits who need to be heard and possessed and to tell their story or to do whatever it is that they want to do, from parents trying to connect with their kids to kids trying to connect with their parents to kids connecting with kids. Talk to Me was such a broad name to conquer this loneliness that seems to be kind of a reoccurring theme, and isolation moreover. They also do a really good job with some of the cinematography on it, in a sense of like we really only see Dad's full face twice, and one of those times is when he's a monster,
which was one of the hardest fucking scenes to watch, for me anyway. That whole scene where she finally sits down and talks to him, and him reading like the note and whatnot, that was rough. Like I was embarrassingly was crying like a baby. I was like, that is so sad. And then it's almost like you feel them finally get that connection, and then just for it to be ripped away because she's being manipulated by all of the spirits that she's come into contact with. And it was just a really dreadful part of the movie. Not that any of the other parts were super happy. One happy thing, though, I will say, for anyone curious, if you haven't seen this and you're watching this anyway, the dog doesn't die. The stinky, cute ass fucking dog, it doesn't die, which is awesome because I get nervous when I see a dog shown that much in a movie, especially a horror movie. I'm like, the dog's gonna get it. But the dog doesn't die, so.
What's so funny, I didn't think that a single time about the dog, but the second we saw the little brother, I'm like, this is an A24 movie, kid. Tough luck. Like, that's not good for you. I know how this is going to end, and it's not going to end well for you, good sir. And I wasn't wrong for the most part.
Also, Miranda Otto, who plays the mother of Jade and Riley, first of all, I hit Asa so hard in the chest when I saw her. Like, I saw her from the side and I was like, is that fucking Eowyn from Lord of the Rings? Like, so my little Eowyn fangirl self was super excited about that. But I sat on her character for such a long time because I didn't understand until you mentioned the parents trying to connect with their kids and kids trying to connect with their parents, like the parallel and of the two families. And how Jade, you see her multiple times trying to connect with her mom, who's super fucking cold to her. The only time you see her be a loving, caring parent is really with Riley and once with Mia, and that's it. And that's not even, Mia's not even her own kid. Like, and I sat on that for a long time trying to figure out why she was such a dick. And you saying again, like the opposite, kids trying to connect with their parents, parents trying to connect with their kids, it clicked. And I was like, oh.
Get ready for another click.
I like clicks.
I was so impressed with myself with this, what later feels like pretty obvious story writing. I loved that character. I love the mom so much. How quick she is to pick up on a lie. Hey, are you going to bed? Why are you sneaking out? Why am I sneaking? Why would you think that? Because you only asked that, right? And she's so quick. She's so quick to pick up on a lie. Okay, so we know this. That's established. Supermom power. And in the first half of the movie, you think, oh, haha, supermom, single mom.
Mm-hmm.
She just has to develop that knack, right? We all knew a mom that was like that. I feel like. Then you get to the end, and you see Mia with the scissors over Riley, and you hear the mom say, "I'm sorry. I misjudged. I know you would never hurt Riley." As the bearer of truth that she is, she showed us the ending of the movie
Yep.
before we knew what the ending of the movie was going to be. And I thought that was so well done and sneakily established. What we thought were just kind of haha funny brush off lines did a great reveal for the ending without ruining the ending.
Right.
I just thought it was really cool.
No,
I was in the kitchen going,
I was trying not to do that. Internally, I was like, oh my God, that's so fucking smart. But at the same time, I thought that the ending was super predictable. I was like, there's no way in shit she's going to kill this kid. No way. It's going to be her. And she knows that it has to be her. Because at that point, I feel like she's figured out that that's not her mom. And that's like, you know, that she's being manipulated, and she let that happen to somebody that she really fucking cared about.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, she ain't gonna do it. There's no way. She's not gonna do it. She's gonna do it to herself, right? Right? But I will say that I started questioning myself as the ending sequence continued. And I was like, is she gonna do it? Like,
wait. I also agree where I think it was maybe about the time of the letters being shared with her between her father and her. I go, man, there's only one way her story ends. And that was before like we got really hit with the manipulation side of things, right? She already is responsible for Riley being in there, right? How does that character recover after all of this? And then she stabs her dad, right? Like, how does she have a happily ever after? And like, there's no way this character is built out to ever have a happily ever after.
No. And I liked that. I liked that it didn't have a happily ever after. Although, again, it's an A24 film. You know, depending on what kind of A24 films you're looking at, most of them don't necessarily have the fairy tale happily ever after, you know? So, but still, it was still nice to go into this movie, feel the shitty emotions that I felt, have like that knot in my stomach the whole time, and have it not let up. Like, the fact that I didn't get that like sigh of relief at the end, I'm happy with that.
There wasn't the sun rising, everything's fine moment. In fact, it's almost the opposite. As the family's packing up at the hospital, all the lights are going dark, right? I also was curious as I was watching, like, I wonder if that's accurate. Or if she's kind of like in a semi-dream state. Not that she's necessarily a ghost in the hospital at the end, but it's a nightmare, right? And so her nightmare, she can't see the reflection in the mirror, which she already stated nightmare. Her part of that nightmare would be not being seen by those family friends, and then recovering and living happily ever after the life that she never really got to have. And then her dad never seeing her after she pretty much rejected him this entire time and never got a chance for forgiveness, right? A living nightmare. I think that's an interesting take on when you die, instead of like seeing your life flash before your eyes or met at the pearly gates, right? It's like, what if the last thing you see is your worst nightmare?
Yeah.
And then you're stuck in darkness.
Yeah.
That's probably a stretch, but...
Well, I mean, when you think about it, I think that even Jade and her and Riley's mom, especially Riley, not really understanding what the hell has been going on because he's not really been there. Why would they just be happy-go-lucky after knowing that their best friend, to the point that they could be a family member, as their mother says, is dead? You know? So I'm interested to see, obviously, because, you know, we have that scene at the end where
spoiler, we're talking about spoilers, everybody. It's such a strong ending.
It is. And I'm interested to see where the sequel goes. I was admittedly, even having not seen the movie, so that was my bad, admittedly a little wary on the fact that they've
I don't blame
already
you.
announced a sequel
Mhm.
for it. But now I'm curious, especially thinking about the idea that what if this really is just all one big nightmare, which typically is a cop out in movies that I do not fucking
True.
like. But it would be an interesting take that I think that they might be able to pull off. Like
Mhm.
seeing them do this movie, I think that that might be something that they may potentially be able to pull off, honestly.
Yeah, because we predicted in Smile, like, what's the sequel going to be about,
Right.
right? Sequel for this, is it going to follow Jade, who's trying to figure out what happened to her best friend in those
Mm-hmm.
last moments? Is it going to be someone completely new? Like, how did that hand, last we saw it, what was kicked across the hospital floor, right? And then she kind of goes her own way of this manipulation because she doesn't really touch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
After again a really cool scene where everything had been living leading up to this point been holding the hand saying I let you into the
Oh,
spirits. She's asking for advice from a ghost and the ghost says I let you in, and in that
that
moment
was
you get
so
hit
good.
with oh god, it's a gateway, it works both ways. Of course it would work both ways, why wouldn't it? And you only get the briefest slightest glimpse of it, and that's all you need. I think if
It's
they had really hammered
terrifying.
home that what the other world looks like, and that would be my concern for the sequel,
Right.
right? They're like, oh hey, here's this really cool concept we explored, let's spend the whole next movie
No.
in this other world. I hope not. I
I
hope not.
I hate to say this about a movie
Mhm.
that where you hold a fucking hand and you could see dead people.
Yeah,
But I feel like exploring the other side in depth would make the whole story feel just super unrealistic.
I could see the second movie being Orpheus and Eurydice mythology. Eurydice dies and Orpheus is like no my love, and goes to hell, goes to
Okay.
underworld. Hades is like cool story, um sucks, bro. Persephone comes in and she's like, oh, honey, it's kind of cute. It's kind of romantic. Let's make a deal, right? And the deal is as long as Orpheus doesn't turn to look behind him, just trust that she's behind him, that they can both go up. Unfortunately, curiosity gets the best of him. He looks back, Eurydice gets pulled back to the underworld, and his one chance to get his love back is gone, right? I could see it talk to me too, following that kind of storyline, right?
Okay.
Possibly Jade going again, trying to find her friend, or maybe the dad trying to go in and find his daughter.
Yeah,
Um,
because if you don't see someone dead, they're probably not dead. And you don't see him die.
no,
He's still
no.
alive when Jade goes to the house to
Mhm.
find Mia, which was another thing I was like mind blown
What?
about because I thought for sure he would be dead, you know?
A
But
Gonzo gone.
yeah, for real. And then I saw him and I was like, oh, he's not dead. Like, Jesus Christ. And then it pans to the hospital and I'm like, wait, everybody pause the fucking movie. Did she call an ambulance? Did she get him help or did she just leave him there? Like, what's happening?
I think that leads credence to this nightmare theory, or at least this hellscape, right? If they can manipulate things around you, why would they not be able to manipulate this universe around you
Right.
too, right? If they're able to pretend to be different spirits, why not pretend to be the dad walking away? But she also sees the guy in the hospital room who was on life support. So the battle was happening, doctor was talking to him, saw him hunched in the bed with nothing there. Is that his ghost? Like, there's a lot of environmental storytelling
Mm-hmm.
happening with a lot of leeway, very Inception, right? Like, oh my god, what's the real ending?
Right.
Um, I would say we could probably for sure say Mia is in the other world.
Yeah.
I would at least confirm that. If I was hypothesizing, that my money would be that she is, at least her spirit is
Yeah.
there.
Two things.
Mhm.
One has absolutely nothing to do with the story, so bear with me. But I would like to just mention how I felt representation in this movie as a person who also screams at the top of my lungs when driving a car, and like is bouncing around and all that stuff. I loved that. I thought that that was so fucking cute, and it's like really the only genuine piece of happiness that we see, and it's almost immediately followed
Mhm.
with something sad that I like that comes back later.
Mhm.
And I know I'm probably not the only one that noticed this parallel, but I thought it was interesting. Like it's kangaroo in the street, put it out of its misery, etc. We've seen
Yup.
that before.
Four. isn't it a cruel irony that now she's in the middle of the street
Mm-hmm.
suffering? Does she get put out of her misery? We don't know.
We don't fucking
Again,
know.
presume. I think the easiest path, least resistance, is that she's dead.
Right.
She's now a ghost. She's now having a taste of her own medicine. Right, that the punishment aspect of being Icarus flew too close to the sun, and here's the
Right.
consequence. Right.
Which sucks. Because I mean, we talked about this like briefly
Mhm.
a little bit earlier, but it's almost like, you know, whether or not she's the bad guy in all of this. And I stand on the hill that I don't think that she is. I think that she's a product of her fucking grief, to like her
Yeah.
grief. And then obviously, you know, I feel the overarching theme with like grief and the parallel that you mentioned about like drug use and stuff like that and like peer
Mhm.
pressure. And I don't think that she's a bad guy for that. I really, really don't.
My mom used to say to me growing up, right? For me, I had an inherent fear of being a bad kid, right? I'd make a mistake, and that fear of like, oh, you're not gonna love me because I'm a bad
Right.
kid, right? Which is nothing my parents really did, right? It's kid psychology, and my mom always did a really good job of saying, hey, you're not a bad kid. There's no such thing as a bad kid. You made some bad choices, but there's no such thing as like a bad kid.
Right.
I think of that even as adults, right? We have our exceptions, obviously.
Right.
But the obvious exceptions aside, bad people don't exist. Bad choices exist.
Right.
And I believe in my heart of hearts that I get told I'm very kind-hearted and that perhaps I'm a bit soft, just that I think anyone can come back
Yeah.
from pretty much anything. And I think Mia, for sure, like I said, is a product of her grief. People do really interesting things when they're deep in pain. Um, so I agree. I don't think she's a villain. Definitely made some bad
Yeah.
choices. Bad choices while under a substance, right? That already altering your brain state. It just is not going to make for a good
No.
time. Can we talk about the little brother scene?
Can we please talk about the little brother scene?
Not sure how much there is to say. I just want to share my reaction of I was super relaxed at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes for his fucking eye with such determination that I like actively folded forward in my seat, hands like in head, going, "Oh my god!" Not because it like was gross, gruesome. It just was so sudden and so real. Like, oh my, oh god, okay, we're doing this, cool, sweet. Like, and just the way the thumb like went over and almost got it. Oh, it was great, beautiful, well done,
Dude,
A plus.
there's not a whole lot of gore in this movie,
Mm-mm.
but when there is, it is fucking beautiful. It is so good. The practical effects, please, they're so good. I was uncomfy.
And again, so much of it looked real. When you look at
Mm-hmm.
like the bloating corpse, right? Like that looks like a bloated corpse. When you look at the mom and you see her slow degradation as she continues to be an evil force, right? And seeing the way her mouth keeps getting dark and her eyes keep getting dark and her nails,
So good.
seeing them scratched and
With
broken and
the little
terrible.
pieces of wood and
Oh, wood,
everything. Like the attention to detail with the practical
yeah,
effects in this were phenomenal.
amazing, hands down.
So like like I still got a piece of something that I would check off on a bingo board for myself out of a ghost movie, which is not something I can say very often.
It's true, not very often.
And I was like, oh, I love it. I'm here. And I love this so much.
I love it so much. And again, the movie was pretty, it was always good paced, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
nice hour and a half mark. We love it. And I had that moment of like, man, this is pretty tame for an A24. I know that they picked it from a film festival, so it's not like A24 wrote it, produced it,
Right, right, right.
etc. They picked it up, said, we see potential, and now we've
Right.
slapped our name on it to give you guys money. However, I was like, this is pretty tame. Lo and behold, we get this little brother scene where he's smacking his head on the table,
Mm.
is trying to pop out his own eye, ends up later on smashing the back of his head against tile and like licking the blood. It's what I would expect from the studio.
Yeah. And the sound design in general is whack. Like it's so crazy. In those scenes also where it's just like that really loud like thunking sound as he's cracking his skull against whatever it is that he's cracking his skull against, including his sister's hand, which that sound made me like,
crunch.
yeah, that sound. Listen, I used to watch Scarred when I was a kid. Shit like
Fair.
that's never bothered me, but the sound that it made when it cracked her hand against the fireplace mantle, I went, oh, like, oh my God. And this is going to sound so stupid, but that scene at the beginning where both Mia and Riley hit Jade with the pillow, I jumped every single time because it was so loud. Like it sounded like there were bricks in the pillowcase and they just like smacked her with it. I was like, oh my God.
My favorite sound was a repeated use, and it wasn't always with wood tables, but it was this creaky wood sound. And I think in part this goes back to my grudge trauma, where you heard the creaking of the rope from where the wife hung herself, right? And that sound reminded me so much of that scene that I'm like, oh my gosh, are we gonna find out there was another scene like that, or at least there's that same amount of tension applied to these scenes that I thought was subtle, even when, especially when there wasn't a wood table, right? Just that tense shifting sound of wood was really good.
There's so many things that I absolutely fucking love about this movie. I can't think of a single thing that I didn't like. Well, there was one character that I couldn't stand, but that's on purpose, I imagine. I think her name was Haley.
Again, I know she's not supposed to be likable, but I treasured Haley. I thought the actor that played them was so spectacular. They knew that character, that persona.
Oh yeah,
to a T.
The portrayal was great, and that's why I don't like Haley. I found them to be just, I don't know. They reminded me too much of like people that I knew in high school that were not very nice to me. And I was like, fuck this bitch. Like, let's go.
I sound like too much of a nerd. Like, in high school, like those were the people I kind of wanted to be friends with. But like I knew like bad news bears. It just was like that good kid kind of mentality of like, I don't know, they seem like fun, and my parents say no, so I shouldn't hang out with them. But what if I hung out with them? I don't know. They did a really good job, I think, between Haley and Joss. Right, Joss as this kind of charismatic wingman.
I liked him.
Who brings people in, where Haley's kind of more the rough edge, the tough love kind of character. Joss is like the class clown. And I really liked their interaction after Riley injures himself, right? And Mia's in the hall, shell shocked, and you hear the two of them behind her talking about like, don't tell mom, right? We cannot tell the police. We cannot talk about this. We got to cover this up. We just got to get our story straight. And how real of a conversation that was, but also disassociating and having it in the background was a really cool scene. I think the acting was good for it, the cinematography, the sound, everything. One of my favorite scenes actually was the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
I have a small detail.
Yes.
Mia in the movie. We'll come and address the color yellow. It's me. We're gonna talk about the color yellow. It's fine. She wears two necklaces. She wears a lot of gold. She has just kind of the plain gold necklace, and then she wears a second necklace that has a B on it. The second necklace is gone in the last part of the movie.
I didn't notice that.
At least I'm like 90% sure I noticed that the second necklace was gone. If true, if I'm not just making it up, because human memory is the worst thing in the world and eyewitness testimonies are trash. If true, I thought that's important. What is so important about bees that would like reflect between the two, right? Here's the thing. Did you know? According to Egyptian mythology, in ancient Egypt, the bee was the emblem of Lower Egypt, a symbol of the giver of life, birth, death, and resurrection. Ra was the sun god and Egypt's most important deity. It was believed that tears of Ra, upon falling from the sky, touched the desert sand, transformed into working bees, honeybees. But other things I read also were an indicator that bees were sort of like a messenger between like planes of existence.
Interesting.
So, big if true, big if that much minutia detailing went into having just this one little bee symbol on her neck this whole time, talking about being a messenger, right? For the gods, for souls, for rebirth, for death. And then as she enters, having shed her yellow jacket, now just in her white tank top, no longer has the bee. Is it that she's no longer a messenger? Is it that she has become the bee? Ooh. Again, we're stretching. I understand. Listen. I know. I hear it. But think about it.
And also, you can't tell us that you don't come here and watch these videos to not hear stuff like that. You can't say that to me. It's a lie.
For our merry viewers. Color psychology characteristics of yellow. It's attention grabbing. It's meant to grab your attention, which is interesting when we have a character that's kind of continually ignored and ignoring other people. It is difficult to read. Yellow is also the most fatiguing to the eye due to the high amount of light that is reflected. Using yellow as a background on paper or computer monitors can lead to eye strain or vision loss in extreme cases. While her yellow isn't like a bright daisy yellow, right? It definitely is kind of a muddy gold yellow. Food for thought. They also list energetic, which doesn't fit our needs, I'll be honest. So we're not going to count it. It's frustrating. Yellow can also create feelings of frustration and anger. While it's considered a cheerful color, people are also more likely to lose their tempers in yellow rooms, and babies tend to cry more in yellow rooms.
Interesting.
Right? Now, I also thought, it's yellow, but her nail polish is more gold, it's more orange. What color does Jade wear? Fun fact, it's blue, which we know are contrasting, particularly if you take orange, more of an orange, the blue, because she's not wearing a true blue either. She's wearing a pretty dusty blue. Because the whole color scheme for the movie, there's not a lot of bright colors, right? So you get this very dusty, dusky yellow, and you get this dark, dusky looking blue. So you already are setting up your characters, which is usually you see blue and red, right, as your two forces. I liked that we had an alternative way to differentiate these characters. For blue, right, we got freedom, intuition, imagination, inspiration, sensitivity, yada yada. But blue is also viewed often as a non-threatening color. So it's Jade, who's pretty much constantly dismissed, right, or is brushed aside, wears a lot of blue. And then you have Mia, who wears a lot of yellow, is chipping away even at the yellow. Is chipping away the warning, is chipping away the loudness that she actively puts on herself, right? Interesting.
You know what I think is also interesting now that we're talking about this? Is you said that blue and red are typically like opposing colors.
Yeah.
But both Daniel and Jade's mom both wear red or like maroonish colors a lot.
You're right.
And
you're right.
With Jade wearing blue, and her two like forces against her are this like strained relationship she has with Daniel because of a past relationship with Mia. But also like this lack of like physical intimacy that Daniel won't provide for her, and then obviously she has that extremely strained relationship with her mom.
I like that. I didn't even think of Daniel because I don't know. Forget Daniel. He's boring. Daniel's so boring. I'm sorry. Daniel. You got used as a plot device. Hate to see it. I'm surprised he lasted. Frankly, I expected him to be gonzo.
But one of the weirdest and most visually disturbing things that happens in the movie happens to him. So, you know.
Good point. Non-second thought. Good point. I think that hits the limit of things I noticed and was really excited to talk about. It was a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed myself. It was, I agree, that feeling of this is the horror movie I've been waiting for. This is when I like want to sit down and watch a scary movie. Talk to Me has it all, right? It's really, really well done. And I'm curious about a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not excited. I won't say I'm excited,
Right.
but I'm curious about a sequel.
I think my excitement for it comes from just dying to know what the hell they're going to do with it. To be honest, like, I can't wait to just know. I like to know things.
Oh, I have a second contender. If it's not Orpheus and Eurydice, it could also be a Dante's Inferno situation.
Oh, okay.
Those, I feel like, are the two most obvious picks of inspiration for a follow through or for a follow up.
I like that.
Or it's a coma, it's all a dream.
Please don't.
Please don't.
For Amber and Alex from Down Home Horror's sake, please don't.
We have a lot of power. We have a lot of influence.
Right?
And so when it's not, we can circle back and say, hey, they listened to us.
Right?
That's
we did this. We did
this for you. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. I'm glad it's us.
Last thought is that I've seen a lot of criticisms of this movie, which I can't say that I necessarily disagree with. I mean, I do, but I understand them, because if you haven't figured out by now, I'm unintentionally devil's advocate. I don't agree with things, but I try my best to understand, right?
Sure.
But I think that like this movie and movies like it, where we're talking about trauma and grief and all that stuff, it's not new. We know this. It's not a new element that's used in horror. And I don't necessarily think that this movie breaks any type of molds or anything like that, but it does a damn good job at what it's trying to do in general. And I think like that theme of grief and trauma and stuff in a weird way is helping me. And I kind of touched on this a little bit in Smile, but I think seeing this one really amplified that it's in a weird way helping me understand like my own brain and putting like thoughts and feelings into words, for lack of a better word. And I think that's why I hold like Smile or Talk to Me or The Babadook and stuff like that at such a high regard. And I really fucking like this movie a lot. And I just thanks. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. It's funny how we can go from one movie and be like, it didn't challenge us, and I don't like it. And go to this movie, it didn't challenge us, and I like it.
Right?
There's, I think, an innate star power quality to something, right? It's going to be missing a certain je ne sais quoi. It's going to be just missing a kernel of something for it to not resonate. And we always go back to horror is subjective, right? Things that you will like. I mean, everything's subjective. Sure. I hear you. I do. But I think horror in particular, we've gone over this before. There's different genres for a reason. There's different things that make people tick. And I'd be curious, people who say, oh, it's not innovative. Is it just not your genre? Because that's okay. That's okay. And is it a criticism at that point, or is it just that you don't like it? And that's just kind of is what it is.
Right.
Sometimes it's really easy to hate on stuff.
Yeah.
We make an art out of it sometimes. But no, I could see why people wouldn't like it, because it is kind of cookie cutter. But the scenes that really make it stand out, like the little brother scene, like the ghost saying, I let you in. There are just enough standout pieces that I think, again, doesn't break the mold, but just makes it a shining example of what that genre can be, versus just another one of the genre.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put that. That's how I feel, pretty much to a T. But again, I suck at words sometimes.
If you just let me talk long enough, I'll come up with something. That's the trick. closing thought being that, right? Great closing thought. I'm not wearing it today, but you might have seen it on our last Shutter Sunday. That I have a down home horror shirt, and you can too. If you go check out our merch link down below in our description box, it has our wonderful logo, which Miss Amber designed herself, on shirts and stickers and mugs and all sorts of other goodies. So if you want to represent your favorite horror gals, ooh, I can't say that, can I? Horror gals. You know what? We're gonna stick with it because I think again at some point it's gonna make for some great merch.
Horror Gals fucking Gary merch coming soon.
Coming soon to down home horror merch shop near you, and that is the description box. Other than that, when we aren't shaking hands with a porcelain medium hand, where can we find you, Amber?
I would never. You can predominantly find me on Twitch right now. I am streaming full time every Monday through Friday. On twitch.tv/AmberBlitz. Whoa.
Oh. So glad that you're back to streaming.
Me too.
Well, you can find me on all social medias at Roll4Alex. I primarily use social media to promote the nonsense that I'm doing, and primarily that nonsense is doing a tabletop role-playing, actual play stuff on Twitch and on YouTube. So hey, let's cut out the middleman, and I'll just tell you here right now. Thing number one, on Thursday nights on YouTube under the Games Tavern, I'm doing a D&D actual gameplay called Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction. It's been going on for about a year and a half. It's a super good time. Highly recommend. Game number two currently is on The Exquisite Corpse on Twitch, and that's at 1 p.m. on Sundays, Eastern Standard Time. And that is a limited run. We're only doing 10 episodes, but if you miss any episodes, you can always catch them on their YouTube as well. And that is a King Arthur inspired game called La Naissance du Reign. We also have a Discord. Hey, we have a Discord. You've probably heard about it. Also linked. Find it. It's a good time. You'll love it. I promise. But until next time, because I'm just rambling. Until next time, be sure to check under your bed for monsters because I can't.
And I won't. Bye.
Bye.